Channel open. Welcome back to WeeklyTrek, a Star Trek news podcast presented by TrekCore.com. I am your host, Alex Perry.
What's today's date? The date.
Today's show was recorded on December 10th, 2025, and is current through Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, so beware of spoilers. All right, let's get into the show.
Good day, Voyager, and welcome to A Briefing with Neelix. It's a catchy title, isn't it?
Weekly Trek is a regular news show covering the biggest stories from the Star Trek franchise. We are in the Alex Kurtzman era of Star Trek with the 12th television show currently in production and 14 movies to enjoy, and merchandise continuing to fill the Bajoran wormhole. So stick with me and I'll help you sort the real facts from lots of the Dominion propaganda that you'll find online. But I can't do this alone, and my guest this week is returning guest Jamie McGregor. Jamie, welcome back to WeeklyTrek.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for the invitation to come back on and talk Trek with you.
All right, Jamie, well, you know the drill. I want to know if something's got you excited about Star Trek at the moment. What's got you moving at Warp 10?
Well, we're coming toward the end of the year, and that means we are only a few weeks away from what will be Star Trek's 60th birthday year.
Oh, hell yes.
And I'm kind of excited for what that has in store. And it has a lot of different things that I hope will be new and exciting for us next year. Star Trek's been in an interesting place, in the last kind of, 5 to 10 years. We've been up. We've been down, we've been COVIDed, we've been, blessed with a whole bunch of stuff. We've had all of that stuff canceled, and so it'll be interesting to see what the franchise, what they have in store for us for the 60th anniversary. We're
Hopefully
10 weeks away. Hopefully something. Yeah, we're 10 weeks away from the cruise, which I get to go on, and I won't, indulge in the cruise evangelism that I know every cruise goer is feels morally responsible for doing. But
you're a cruise cultist.
I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, it's got a original series kind of bent to it this year with Shatner and Koenig and some of the original series stars going on it. We should get some news this year about, I don't know, some new show, I think, or more movie details. I'm excited for the actual shows that are going to be on the air to maybe do some kind of tie-in for the 60th. You've already spoke on Weekly Trek about how the licensees are kind of, murmuring that there'll be some great stuff on the horizon. So anyway, putting it all together, I'm excited for the 60th anniversary, and it's not far away.
Yeah, it is not far. I mean, it's December 10th. The clock ticks over to 2026 in but 21 days. I mean, technically it's 10 months until the actual 60th anniversary, because that's September 8th. But here we are. We will consider it to be the whole of 2026, not just September. And yeah, we've got Starfleet Academy coming in January. Is there going to be any sort of 60th anniversary tie-in there? We've got Strange New Worlds coming later in the year. Will there be any 60th anniversary tie-in there? Yes, all these rumors. I've not heard anything super specific, but rumors from licensees about really interesting and fun stuff coming, and the franchise itself sort of hinting at where's more to come during the year. They announced this Rose Bowl float, which obviously is just sort of a little thing, but that's not the long and short of the 60th anniversary celebration. So yes, and I'm sure all of you cruise cultists will have a wonderful time celebrating the 60th anniversary of Star Trek on the high seas.
So the question, would it have been known at the time that they were being written and shot that they would be premiering in the 60th anniversary year?
That is a great question. I think yes, because Let's think about Strange New Worlds. So Strange New Worlds Season 3 was written before the strike, and it was filmed shortly after the strike, which means that Season 4 would have been written after the strike, which means that they would have known sort of what the sequencing was then going to be of 3, 4, and 5. So presumably,
I think they would have had a good idea.
Yeah,
they would have had a good idea.
Presumably, yes. And presumably, yes, for Starfleet Academy too, because I believe that season, actually, maybe that season was written before the strike.
They certainly could have launched sometime in 2025 , maybe, I think.
Yeah, if the strike had not happened, they probably could have gone this year. I think if the strike hadn't happened, they definitely would have gone this year.
Yes. So I'd be surprised if we get a special 60th anniversary edition of Academy, but probably wouldn't be for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, you could maybe see them being technically the 60th anniversary would be September 8th, 2026 to September 7th, 2027. And so that would season 2 of Starfleet Academy would fall during that point in time. So, but that feels a little esoteric. I think it's, when they've done the 50th anniversary and the 40th anniversary and the 30th anniversary, it's the year January to December of the anniversary, not September to September. So I would imagine the same will be true here as well.
Yep. Fair enough.
All right, let me tell you what I'm feeling good about Star Trek this week. And it's actually tied into one of our news stories, so we don't have to dwell on it too much, because it's about the Lego Star Trek set that came out. And we'll talk a little bit about the success of the Lego Star Trek set on sort of the macro level in one of our stories. But I just wanted to say how cool I think it has been to see so many people enjoying, purchasing, owning, and building this Star Trek Lego Enterprise D set. I will confess, in the end, I did not buy one, even though in the last episode I was like, I'm gonna do it. It got to like 8 p.m. on Thanksgiving night.
So it was simply too much turkey? Is that it?
Well, no, it wasn't. I fell asleep. I was just sitting there thinking, like, I was trying to decide, was I buying this because I was excited about owning it, or was I buying it because everybody else was excited about owning it? And I decided I was buying it because everybody else was excited more than I was excited. And so I was like, I'm going to let this one pass me by. Because I didn't love the blue bricks, like big ships. I don't love the, like, that it's just sort of a big gray ship hunk of plastic, like it's just not for me. But
come on, Alex, big enough to fill the Bajoran wormhole.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, and that my point is, even though I decided it wasn't for me, I'm absolutely thrilled that it exists, and I'm thrilled at how much fun and enjoyment it is bringing so many of my friends, including people who otherwise aren't big Star Trek merchandise people, but this Lego Enterprise set has really sort of, tickled their funny bone or tickled their merchandise bone, I guess, in this case. I can't remember the last time so many people from all different, like, walks of my, like, fandom life have bought one specific piece of merchandise and all had a great time with it. And so I just think that's very cool. And it's not, like a lot of Star Trek products are pretty niche. A small subset of my friends buy the books. A small subset of my friends buy the XO6. A small subset of them are into the action figures. But this Lego set seems to have sort of, punctuated a little bit broadly in terms of who has, bought it, which is no small feat considering it is $400. And if you wanted to get the Shuttlepod set, you had to be online at midnight Thanksgiving, and it was sold out by like 12:03. So, it's been very cool to see a Star Trek product brings so much joy to so many people.
That's awesome. That seems to be a little bit along the lines of myself with the nacelle company, in terms of, somebody that's not necessarily always into this kind of stuff being, having an itch scratched, by something that one of these licensees does. And I think you've put your finger on it. And this Lego set seems to have broken through. And, let's hope it's the beginning of much more.
We're going to turn you into an action figure guy, Jamie. That's the crusade is on.
Fair enough. Good luck.
All right. Well, with that, let's turn to the week's top stories.
There's a war going on, and I'm a reporter.
Well, the premiere of Star Trek Starfleet Academy is just 1 month away, and the marketing for it is now kicking into high gear. First, Paramount unveiled a 90210 style poster of the Academy cadets that, well, let's just be honest, wasn't to everybody's taste, but I think it's pretty cool. And at the CCXP convention in Brazil this past weekend, Starfleet Academy villain Paul Giamatti, who plays Noose Braca, took to the stage to unveil a 4-minute clip of the upcoming show. Let's give it a listen.
Talk to me, number one.
We're not far from the Badlands, Captain. Subspace instability may be creeping in, and we're the first to chart it.
These would make an excellent practical study module for the Spatial Harmonics Lab, Captain.
All right. Well, let's not turtle the ship on our first run.
Captain, I'm picking up sources of tachyon interference 100,000 kilometers to port.
Contacts incoming.
Check your sensors. Red alert, raise shields. Target those contacts and take them out. Get to the kids.
Enterprise, you must return to your quarters. This is not a drill.
Moving! Don't panic! Breathe! Breathing is your friend!
Go!
Go on!
Go! This is not a drill! Get your dorms! Go! Move it! Why are you jogging? Get up the stairs!
What is that? Programmable matters engulfing the entire ship.
It's a variant we've never seen before.
Activate backup holocomms interface.
Aye, Captain.
Helm, get us out of here.
We've lost Helm response. Manual override initiated.
Helm, not responding?
It's draining our power, Captain.
Captain, it's the Venari roll.
Fire full spread.
We can't.
Emergency evasive.
Multiple systems overload, Captain. Primary power at 86%.
All remaining
falling.
power to forward shields. Open a channel to Starfleet Command.
Shields
This is Captain
11%
Ake of the
falling.
USS Athena. Calling Starfleet Command. Repeat.
10%.
USS Athena under attack by the Venari Roll.
9.
Damage to multiple
8%.
decks, Captain, including crew quarters.
Bridge to the doctor. Doctor,
6.
report.
A little busy here, Captain. The explosion damaged our emergency holo emitters. Medical staff is in short supply right now. From what I can see, there are multiple injuries, both cadet and officers, but no casualties.
Let me know if that changes.
If we could avoid another direct hit, that would be super helpful.
Attention, all cadets. Attention, all
Power supply is fluctuating ship-wide.
Cadets and instructors in lockdown.
incoming holo transmission.
Patch it through.
15 long years. But you look radiant as ever, Captain Ake.
New Spraka.
So many things I didn't get to say when last we met. For instance, time, with its infinite sense of humor, will always fold upon itself like an origami chicken. Yeah, and this moment, Captain Ake, this moment is that chicken. In other words, payback's a bitch.
Jamie, what was your reaction to the first poster and clip of Star Trek Starfleet Academy?
Well, my reaction to the 4-minute clip was how exciting to see, this is the very first, beyond a couple of teaser trailers, this is the first footage we've got from the show. And the general, visual vibe that it gives off is very similar to Discovery and Strange New Worlds, which is to be expected, I think. And so there'll be a kind of visual language in terms of continuation of that. Great to see, just the beginnings of, the particular scene is, of course, the arrival of Bracca. And, that was exciting in itself. I don't quite exactly know what was going on, and I look forward to finding out exactly what was going on. But there were a great, a couple of great little touches. Great to see the Doctor back, and of course, getting him into a clip that gets released early is, of course, going to be catnip for Star Trek fans. And if you had asked me several months ago, the first, actual footage you will see from an episode of this show will feature the voice of Stephen Colbert, I would not have believed you at all. But you can kind of detect, you can certainly hear him in the background of part of the scene. So honestly, I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I'm interested. Do you know who sorry to come on the show unprepared and ask you a bunch of questions, but do you know who the director is for the premiere?
I think it's Alex Kurtzman. I don't remember for sure, but I think it's Kurtzman.
Okay, so he's directing it himself. Fair enough. I certainly just got very much the sense of a continuation of what we have seen previously in Discovery and Strange New Worlds. And so for the people that have enjoyed that, I think they will enjoy that. For the people that have been critical of that and don't like it, I'm fearful for what they will be thinking about this show. There's a part of me that doesn't care as long as it's good and I enjoy it. But where I am a little concerned about is just the vibe in terms of just even in those 4 minutes, the vibe I got in terms of the way people talk to one another, the representation on screen. My biggest concern here is I am just not sure that this show is, having already been created, is matching the corporate vision that the new Paramount has for media generally. And I have a concern that it's going to get, 2 seasons and that's going to be that. And, anyway, that is my kind of concern for this show, even with just 4 minutes having been watched.
Are you saying perhaps that it might be a touch woke for the current overlords of Paramount Skydance?
It's a fairly low bar, I suspect, and yes, it may clear that. But yes, that's my concern.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this show, and it's sort of been a weird kind of 2 weeks in terms of the marketing because they released this poster that a lot of people did not really like.
But why? Well, let's be honest. Let's talk about the poster. What is wrong with the poster? It's a young adult show, and they've given you the visual language of a young adult show. Yeah. What are you expecting here? This is the whole reason why this show exists. Right. They're going for a very specific demographic with a very specific concept, with a very specific, aim in mind. What are you expecting?
I think that is it exactly. What on earth were you expecting? It's a young adult show. Of course it's a young adult show. They've never tried to hide the ball about it being that. The trailers tell you that's what it is. Everything they've said about the show says that that's what it is. Everything about the whole ethos and existence of the show is about, we want this to be something for young people. So why people are surprised to discover that a show about a group of, effective teenagers, right? This is college. People go to college, their freshman year of college, they're 18, 19 years old. And so they are 18, 19 years old in this show. A show about 18, 19-year-olds is gonna have a certain vibe to it. It's gonna be like a certain kind of show. And it's also gonna have Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti in it. So I think in some ways people have been so focused on the Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti of it all that they've kind of forgotten that this is gonna be a show about the cadets, a group of 18 and 19-year-olds. And yeah, it's going to have a certain vibe to it. And yes, it's going to be sexy and it's going to be hormonal and emotional and about young people finding themselves and finding their identities, because that's why you make a show about 18 and 19-year-olds. You don't make a show about 18 and 19-year-olds full of 18 and 19-year-olds who behave like they're 35 or 40 years old. You make a show about 18, 19-year-olds to make a show about 18, 19-year-olds. And that's what they're doing. And the clip then shows that all of the overblown nonsense about, is this going to be all just 18, 19-year-olds doing 18, 19-year-old things? No, it's not. It's also got Paul Giamatti and Holly Hunter in it. So it is fun. I almost wonder the clip they chose to show at CCXP, given the reaction to the poster, is very much just this is a standard Starfleet battle. Initially, I kind of felt the same way that you did about this does feel very Discovery-ish to me. But I rewatched it a couple of times and I decided that the reason I felt that was really just because of the lighting, the costumes, and the
set
effects. Design. Yeah, and the set design, right? Which are the
it's in the same era, right?
Exactly, yeah. So those are the things that you would expect to port over. I will withhold judgment on how Discovery-ish it is until I actually see whole episodes. Just like I'm going to withhold judgment on how, teeny it is until I've seen whole episodes. Because so far we've seen 2 trailers, 1 poster, and 1 4-minute clip. And I think the reaction to it is all just kind of strange. I think the last thing I'll say is I do think that it is appealing to me that Star Trek Starfleet Academy has adopted a pretty unique vibe for Star Trek. I said on Blue Sky, I was like, I think it's cool it's adopting this unique vibe. And I got someone snarking at me being like, tweeny drama is the last thing from a unique vibe. And granted, because it fits into a whole pantheon of shows for young adults, but it is a unique vibe for a Star Trek show, which was what the sentence that I wrote out literally said. And so, Star Trek can't always just be more of the same. And they are doing something here to try and do something different, present a unique style and a unique spin on Star Trek. And I'm really excited to see where it goes.
Yes. without being too trite, it needs to go where no show has gone before. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that what you're pitching?
That could be one way of putting it.
My overall just concern that I led with was just, oh my gosh, I remember being on an episode of Weekly Trek before Section 31 came out, and I was kind of like, you know what, Alex, I'm excited for the fact that we're welcoming in new Trek actors into the family for, you know, for future conventions and future whatever. It doesn't matter whether Section 31's good or bad, you know, we'll be bringing in these new people and it's going to be fun. And boy, did I get that wrong, because you know that everyone is having rightfully so collective amnesia that Section 31 even exists, and we will pretend that it doesn't exist for the next 60 years of Star Trek. I think we will pretend that doesn't exist, and I feel sorry that those actors have actually are going to miss out on that. And my concern is, oh my gosh, this show which could be fantastic is going to be kind of strangled in the crib by David Ellison or whatever the new head honchos decide to do. So that was kind of like my concern. But we definitely know we're going to get 2 seasons of this show to find out where it takes us, and hopefully proves the doubters wrong, becomes a success, provides us something new and different. And my fingers are crossed that that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, we'll see on the Ellison Skydance stuff. I mean, I know it's a really popular opinion on Blue Sky right now that, the Ellisons owning Paramount is a really bad thing for Star Trek. And I don't want to understate it, because all of the stuff about cronyism and corruption around the Warner Brothers Discovery deal is 100% true and very well taken. And if you look at the corporation's moves around the kind of projects that they're greenlighting, Rush Hour 4 with Brett Ratner being a good example, like they are clearly identifying young males who maybe aren't liberal as being a target demographic for a lot of the new projects that they're greenlighting. Having said that, though, like any other corporation, they're a corporation and they want to make money, and liberals spend money too. And so you do want to make some stuff for liberals that, appeals to progressives who have a progressive ideology. Like, ultimately, I think David Ellison is not a dyed-in-the-wool MAGA Trumpist. I think he is a guy who wants to make lots of money and will take whatever advantageous route ultimately gets him there, which right now is cozying up to the president to get access to all of these sweetheart business deals and have the president boost his attempt to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery over Netflix, and get the president, who was really hammering CBS News for its coverage of him, to look somewhere else and go somewhere else and focus his attention on Disney or on CNN or somewhere that's not CBS, because Ellison wants to make buckets of money and doesn't really, I don't think it's a political crusade. I think it's a business thing. And so I think as a business thing, Star Trek in its current form fits into that sort of business proposition, because it makes money and people like it for a certain reason, and a certain kind of people like it. So you're going to continue to make the product that appeals to those people.
I mean, it's unfortunate. And without going too far off on a tangent, it's unfortunate that what's happening to CBS News or whatever else it might be is going to be sacrificed along the way for that vision. I don't necessarily disagree with you, and there is certainly evidence that Ellison and Skydance, obviously they've been involved in Star Trek before voluntarily, and put a pretty good product on the screen. So, I don't know what's happened in the time between then and now, but there's obviously some kind of affinity for Star Trek, its vision, its ideals, exactly where they fit in 2020, the America of 2025. I don't quite know. And maybe we'll be talking about that toward the end of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big sort of question, I mean, Ellison is a Star Trek fan. He likes Star Trek, and he liked the Kelvin timeline movies enough to put money into making them. I mean, whether it sort of fits with his personal politics or not, it fit with his business interests, which is he wanted to make money. And so I think, I think I am, I mean, everybody can make their own decision about how much they want to affiliate with Paramount's corporate endeavors based off of the behavior that the corporation has expressed in the last few months, particularly as it relates to the Trump White House. To me, it doesn't feel like a political project. It feels like a business project, one that's maybe really wrong-headed because it affiliates them with the Republicans in a way that will come back to bite them when inevitably the political winds shift and Democrats come into power. And so it might not be good business strategy, but it is a business strategy, in my opinion, more than it is like a political project.
Well, we will see.
We will certainly see. I mean, you know, this Starfleet Academy feels like if there's one thing about Discovery, it's going to kind of, you know, sort of take forward. It is Discovery's very progressive bona fides. So we'll know pretty quickly within the context of this corporation at this moment in time if a highly progressive show is one that can sort of flourish within the, you know, the sort of current Paramount architecture.
Yeah. I mean, what they do have going for them, of course, is that they've got 2 guaranteed seasons, which is fortunate and lucky for them to at least get 20 episodes out there, you know, before decisions are made.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, those seasons, I mean, season 2 is shooting. So, you know, like there's not going to be a lot of changes to that at this point in time. Well, flashing back from new Star Trek to old Star Trek, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was recently interviewed by the Danish website Movie for his new film, The Smashing Machine, and as reported by TrekMovie.com, the reporter asked about The Rock's first proper acting gig, which was on the Star Trek Voyager episode Sunkatse. Johnson had fond memories of working on Star Trek, saying, quote, "And the crew, the cast, everybody was so awesome, but very specifically, Jeri Ryan was amazing. She was so welcoming and warm. I had never done anything before in terms of acting. I come from the world of wrestling, and in a way that is performance, but cues, marks, dialogue, and all of that was still very new to me. But Jeri was so amazing and so cool and generous and blew me away how just wonderfully welcoming she was." Johnson went on to say part of the reason he remembers Jeri Ryan so fondly is because she treated him with respect, even though he was a newcomer to acting, which a lot of other actors in other early acting roles that Johnson had didn't afford him. "People always remember how you treat them," Johnson said. Jamie, what was your reaction to hearing about Dwayne Johnson's experiences on Star Trek?
It was lovely, and it's nice to hear from people that have, you know, started in Star Trek in some way, shape, or form, still holding a special place for that experience. You know, even when they go on to doing other things, and obviously, given the length and breadth of Star Trek as a franchise through entertainment history, so many actors have been through that crucible in some way, shape, or form, either at the beginning, middle, or end of their careers, that you'd love to see the kind of like cross-plotting or Venn diagram of how many actual Hollywood actors have been a part of a Star Trek, you know, show. There's, you know, it'd be a significant portion of the whole of Hollywood. And the fact that he had an enjoyable and fantastic experience is lovely to hear about all these years later. I did enjoy watching the interview and seeing the trailer for the show, and you know, we've just been talking about where Star Trek sits in the you know, in the culture wars of 2025.
Sure.
And I just watching the promo announce the episode as America's SmackDown hero takes on Voyager's Battlestar Babe made me kind of you know, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, what was. You know, we look back with such rose-colored glasses at so many things about Star Trek generally, you know, about, you know, what TNG was really like, you know, in the early seasons compared to the late seasons, about what was going on culturally, you know, on UPN anyway during most of Voyager's run, and then what was affecting Enterprise and what people were being forced to do or otherwise. And I mean, honestly, it's a miracle that Star Trek survived in the way that it has and in such good shape, quite frankly, given the fact that all Star Trek is a product of its time. You know, exactly the same can be said of the original series. And so I do remember this because I was watching Voyager on VHS months after it aired back in Australia. I saw it in 2000. I had no idea who The Rock was.
Sure.
Wrestling.
Yeah, me neither.
Wrestling does not quite have the same cultural valence in other. I'm sure there's a very passionate wrestling fan base in Australia, but it was not really a cultural thing there. And most people look at it with a little bit of suspicion, especially a country like Australia, which is massive on sport. And here are all these, you know, Americans yelling and screaming in an arena for this thing that is basically a gigantic fake. Like it makes very little sense, but coming here and understanding how big it is and how massive it is and what a cultural phenomenon it is. Even now, we're going to have, who are we having? A WWE wrestler is going to be in Academy. So, even now there's a crossover between Hollywood and the wrestling world. And I don't know, but I assume The Rock was probably one of the people that kind of pioneered that. And what a cool story for him to even all these years later have Jeri Ryan as one of his favorite people because of what she did on for one day on a TV set in 2000.
Yeah, I love this story personally because I just think The Rock has gone on to do so many things. I mean, he's one of the, I think until recently, was one of the biggest and most bankable stars in Hollywood. The guy had basically never, since The Scorpion King, had never made a flop. I think The Smashing Machine was a bit of a flop, even though it was a critically well-received movie. But, he has just been this massive star who's had all these experiences. You could very easily see a guy like that, sort of just I don't want to talk about that Star Trek thing I did, because he is only in the episode for one scene, and it probably wasn't that big of a deal, but to hear that he had a great experience and to sort of think that in some ways sort of Star Trek helped kick off his acting career. Obviously he was a big star in the wrestling world, and I said I agreed with you. I hadn't heard who he was. I actually think I had, because I had friends who were fans of American wrestling, and so I think I was aware of him as a wrestling person, but I myself had not watched it. I just had friends who liked to talk about it, so I'd sort of absorbed some of that by osmosis. And I think Sunkatse is a great episode. Yes, it's a gimmicky episode because they were definitely sort of crossing over UPN's twoest big hits, wrestling and Star Trek Voyager, to try and boost both of them, more Voyager than wrestling. And, it definitely, when you, as you say, when you watch the commercials connected to the episode, that comes through really loud and clear. But when you watch the episode, actually, aside from a lingering shot on The Rock's people's eyebrow, which I think is the correct term for it, it doesn't there's not really anything super gimmicky about it. It's just The Rock playing an alien in Star Trek, and I think that's cool. And I think the fact that he sort of sees this episode of Star Trek as part of his personal acting arc is also very appealing to me.
Just the fact that when the interviewer asked the question, his face lit up.
Right.
That was kind of nice, even in all of it, just in itself. You could tell that this was something that he was delighted to talk about rather than something that he looks down on, all these years later as beneath him. So, yeah. I agree.
Well, Thanksgiving night saw the global launch of the new Star Trek USS Enterprise D Lego set, and the small hours of Black Friday morning brought a complete sellout of the initial run on Lego.com. Don't worry if you were hoping to purchase the Lego Enterprise set is already back up for order, but it is back ordered for delivery in January. But if you were still hoping to score the Shuttlepod gift with purchase that was released alongside the Enterprise for the earliest purchases, sorry, you are out of luck. That sold out in mere minutes on Black Friday morning. The Lego Star Trek launch has impressed even me, someone who pays very close attention to Star Trek merchandise, and one friend who spoke with Lego customer service to inquire about the status of her order was told it was one of the company's hottest releases in years. So hopefully that will convince Lego that more Star Trek sets are warranted. JB, what was your reaction to the quick sellout of the Lego Enterprise D?
Did you say it was sold out in 3 minutes? Is that what or were you joking about that?
I think the Shuttlepod set was sold out within a few minutes. The Enterprise D set was sold out in the initial run was sold out in an hour. There will be plenty. They're going to manufacture loads. It's not limited edition. So you can already order it again, but they did make an initial run to sell to people right now and ship to people right now, and that all sold out. So everything that's ordered now is later stock that's manufactured later in response to the size of the demand from that initial tranche.
You can tell that they were not expecting that demand because they had said that the shuttle pod option would be available for 3 days? You had to get it by December 1, and it lasted not 3 days, but 3 minutes. So someone somewhere is going, okay, this stuff's popular, and that can't be bad for Star Trek. I love the stories that you were telling at the top of the show, just about how this was kind of captivating the interest of people who aren't normally into merchandise. I'll be honest, the thing that appealed mostly to me was actually the little Lego minifigures were probably the most exciting and interesting out of the whole set. I also, listening to your comments on previous shows just around the fact that how the item looks, it's going to be interesting to see how they then tackle other future Star Trek properties, because with the success of this, they're obviously going to be doing more stuff in the future, right? They're definitely going to be doing, but how you attack things that are very round in shape, and wouldn't be a surprise to you, Alex, that I might be thinking about Deep Space Nine, but I'm just just saying, like that's got some curves that might be hard for generic Lego to replicate. But once you even move into the whole realm of starships and things like that, you're going to have the same problem over and over again. So I think it looks exactly as you said in previous shows. It looks like a Lego set would do for this particular thing, and that is going to be hugely popular with people who, guess what, like Lego and like using it and like creating stuff with it. And so, look, I was super excited as to how successful it was, because this means we're going to get more of it. And sometimes I feel that you say that on this show and it kind of goes into the ether. You'll say, well, if you want more audio dramas, you better buy them. Or if you want more of this, you better buy it, or whatever. And this is an example of that actually happening in real life, which is, if it sold out in 3 minutes, and they were expecting 3 days or whatever else it might be, clearly this is a good news story for Star Trek. So, how good's that?
Yeah. All around a good news story for Star Trek, and I really do hope that this convinces them there's a market here and to make more of them. I mean, this is branded under the Lego brand. It's not like it's its own separate Star Trek brand like Marvel and Star Wars and Harry Potter are. So that does not automatically say there's going to be an extensive line of releases just like there are for Star Wars and Marvel. But as my good friend and former guest of the show, or longtime frequent guest of the show, Thad Haight, let me know, the Lord of the Rings sets they've done are also released, and they've done now 3 or 4 of those. So that doesn't mean that like it's a one and done, even though lots of sets are ones and dones.
Lego icons?
Yes.
Lego icons.
Yeah, icons.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I, as I was sitting there trying to decide if I was going to buy this set or not, I ultimately made a deal with myself to say I would not buy this set because I'm not super into Lego starships. But if they ever did interior sets like Bridge of the Enterprise style with the minifigures, that would be a guaranteed immediate smash that purchase button as hard as you can situation for me, because that's the kind of thing that I think
actually Lego would be good at.
Yes, exactly. I think that's exactly the kind of thing Lego would be excellent at, doing like an Enterprise D bridge or a TOS Enterprise bridge. I mean, maybe less a TOS Enterprise bridge because it's already been done in so many different formats that, it'd be nice to see something else. But you can also see why they would do that. And I do wonder if the decision to lead off the Lego range with the Enterprise D in 2025 to sort of it was a little strange to me. I mean, obviously, Next Generation is a huge selling property, but TOS is still the biggest property that Star Trek has and its biggest seller. And it did make me wonder if maybe the TOS Enterprise is being held back because next year's the 60th anniversary, and doing a Star Trek TOS set in 2026 to celebrate the 60th anniversary would be, I think, an opportune moment to do that. So wouldn't shock me if they did something TOS next and did it next year in conjunction with the 60th.
I still think probably demographics with disposable income, and an interest in this kind of thing probably skew towards TNG.
That is very possible too. Yes.
Yeah, that's just my suspicion about that. And I'm also excited. I'm just excited the fact that not that Star Trek is a part of Lego, but that Lego in any way, shape, or form wanted to be a part of Star Trek, right? Yeah. You know that Lego is interested in Marvel, it is interested in Lord of the Rings, or it is interested in F1, or it is interested in all of these kind of big properties because they're popular, and you get a certain cachet if Lego wants to create.
Yeah.
And to this point, I think it's been a little bit of a black mark on Star Trek as a franchise as the whole. Not that I want to talk badly about Blue Bricks, who I think did a good job from what I can gather. But the fact that, we're the second-rate franchise, right? Where's your Lego set of X, Y, or Z, and didn't exist, and now it does, and they'd be crazy not to do more, which I think is going to elevate the position that Star Trek has, not just amongst the older disposable income fans that are actually going to buy this for, but also for kids. Like kids are interested in what is there, and Star Trek doesn't have a place on the shelf, then no one's going to be interested in it. I know a couple of families where the kids' interest in the property has been driven by the Lego set, not the other way around. And if that's the case, Godspeed more Lego sets.
Lego's bigger than Star Trek. It just is.
That's it.
Like, its cultural penetration is bigger and deeper than Star Trek's is. And so Star Trek benefits more from the existence of a Lego set than Lego benefits from Star Trek. I've always felt that way. And so I agree with you. I think it's a big deal for Star Trek that there's a Lego set, more than it's a big deal for Lego that there's a Star Trek set.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, and lastly this week, Paramount have announced that Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 will land on 4K and Blu-ray on March 3rd, 2026. The complete 10-episode season is included, as well as a few behind-the-scenes featurettes, a gag reel, and deleted scenes from 8 of the episodes. A 4K steelbook is also being released. You can pre-order the set now in the United States for $74.99 for the 4K steelbook and $47.99. I wonder if that was an intentionally chosen price for the standard Blu-ray. Jamie, now that we're a few months past Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, what did you think of the season as a whole?
I loved it. And I was a little disturbed a couple of episodes ago. You were talking about season 3, and it was you were kind of frustrated at some of the negative reaction to the season. But I didn't see it. As in, I just don't see the criticism. So much so that the showrunners are coming out saying, "Oh, season 4 is going to be a bit more serious, or we were a little unhinged in season 3." And I was like, damn it, I really enjoyed season 3. What's wrong with me? Look, there were a couple of misses from my perspective. I didn't think what is Starfleet quite did what it intended to do, but they took a swing and missed. But okay, fair enough. That's fine. 4.5 Vulcans wasn't my favorite episode of Star Trek, but even something like Shuttle to Kenfori, like I loathe horror, zombie, frightening kind of. I loathe that, and even I enjoyed that show. I was like, this is good.
One of the best of the season.
Generally, I actually thought the season was pretty bloody good. So I don't know what everyone's complaining about, and I hope they don't stray too far for season 4. I am interested though a little bit. You do keep a track of these kinds of things. I kind of feel that it's a bit weird because physical media is probably less popular than ever, but possibly more necessary than ever with all of these, when we talked at the top of the show, all these media companies trying to buy each other and create, massive libraries. And of course, they will not be able to tend to each of those libraries in the way that they would if they're all separate companies, looking after their own IP, right? They're basically big companies eating up each other's IP. And then, they're not going to be able to look after each of them. I kind of feel that these special features have kind of dwindled over time, and obviously the heyday of, DVD or Blu-ray special features is well past us, but, is it going to kill them to give us like a commentary track or, one of these kind of things? Like I can't even remember when the last, I've got a couple of the Picard Blu-ray sets, and I don't think there's any commentary tracks on them either. It seems to be something that isn't done anymore, and the featurettes get shorter and shorter, and they'll put some VFX stuff and gag reels on there. But it seems that despite the fact that not as many people are buying them, I actually think it's actually more important that people buy the physical media, because you never know when all of a sudden your favorite show departs your streamer of choice.
Yeah, the physical media market has collapsed in that. I think it's a bit less that the people aren't buying it so much as because demand is really low, the number of people who are making the discs anymore is contracting. And that's a big reason why the Voyager documentary's been really struggling, is because there's just not many people like actually physically making discs anymore. But there is still a market for it, and I think you're totally right. It still behooves you as a Star Trek fan, if you are interested in the peace of mind of, I want access to these episodes, I always want access to these episodes, to have them on disc. Once again, Star Trek Prodigy Season 1 is not available on any of the streaming services. You either have to buy it digitally or buy it on physical media in order to own it, because it left Netflix, and Season 2 will be leaving in 3 weeks from now at the end of this year. And then that will fall into the same kind of, it's not impossible to get. Again, you just pay I think it's like $20 to buy it all digitally, or you pay $20 and buy the Blu-ray. But I mean, you can still watch it, without having a disc, but it's not on Netflix, it's not on Paramount Plus. And so physical media is one of only 2 ways to ultimately have it. And for European and rest of the world Star Trek fans, Star Trek is finally leaving Netflix. In the rest of the world, it's been gone in the US for about close to 10 years now, but it has the legacy Star Trek shows remained on Netflix, and those are now going exclusive to Paramount Plus everywhere else in the world beyond just the United States. And there are lots of people very disappointed about that, and you have 2 options: either get a Paramount Plus subscription and hope that the shows stay there, or pick them up on physical media, and until the discs decay, they're yours to watch, and you have a functioning player, they're yours to watch as many times as you want to. So I think there is still there are, in this very volatile and uncertain media environment, a lot of incentives to continue to own physical media.
And hopefully, if Season 4 is as good as Season 3, I'll be happy at least. So yeah, I would be definitely happy to get this pack in the hope that it doesn't depart a streaming service who am I kidding? I'm not giving up my Paramount Plus subscription anytime soon.
All right, well, we've talked about the facts, and now let's offer our opinions on the Star Trek franchise.
Your opinion has been noted. Anything further?
So as we transition from the news section to the opinion section, each week my guests and I will give you a Star Trek opinion, wish, or theory we're nurturing that week about any aspect of the Star Trek franchise we want to opine on. So Jamie, let's hear it. What's your big Star Trek opinion for this week?
Well, I'm going to jump off the back of what we talked about at the top of the show, and around Academy and the media landscape that we're in. And I'm going to ask a question rather than give an opinion necessarily.
Okay.
I am somewhat torn about, just in thinking about all the stuff that I was talking about earlier in the show, I'm very torn about whether do I want the current Kurtzman era to continue as is, or is it actually time for a new steward of the franchise to take over and take it in a new direction. I am not a new Trek hater in any way, shape, or form. It's given us some phenomenal Star Trek. Have I loved everything? No, but do I think on the whole we've had, are we better off for the Kurtzman era of Star Trek? In my opinion, absolutely. Prodigy and Lower Decks would be 2 of my favorite things in the entire franchise. Strange New World is going to be there absolutely by the completion of its 5 seasons as well. From my perspective, I haven't enjoyed the longer form Trek in terms of Picard and Discovery, where they're the kind of more serialized approaches to Trek. I haven't enjoyed that as much. But at the end of the day, I think they've done a great job, and they've tried a few new things in different ways, and you can tell that Kurtzman has tried intentionally to broaden the franchise away from the same thing over and over again. On the negative side, I do think they've had a few misfires. I do think that he, as a steward of the franchise, has struggled to balance the bringing in new eyeballs versus keeping the previous fans of the franchise as it was when he took over happy. I don't know that he can necessarily be blamed for that, because I think that was quite possibly either an impossible task or a fool's errand. I'm not quite sure which. And I think there's always going to be a reservoir of very, very vocal and critical people and social media doesn't make that any easier. And to echo a little bit of what I said earlier, I suspect that if, TNG or DS9 or Enterprise or Voyager had been created in an era of social media such that we have today, oh my gosh, it would be seen in a completely different light. So given the positives and the negatives about this, I'm kind of torn. Is it actually time to just say, thank you very much, love your work, you've done a great job, few hits, few misses, time for someone else to take over? Or am I worried that the grass might not necessarily be greener, and in fact that things could be a lot worse than sticking with someone who has delivered such enjoyable Trek in the time that he's had. So anyway, that's my question. I'm interested in your take, but at the moment, I don't quite know the answer.
Yeah, it's a super interesting question. And actually, it aligns in some ways with my opinion for this week, because I wonder a little bit if the opinion that I have is maybe the other side of the coin from the question you're asking. Because I think for me personally, as I process your question and then my opinion this week, which is I'm getting so sick of Star Trek social media and its reaction to Star Trek shows, and like the rush to judgment on Starfleet Academy is really, it is most strongly pushing me away from social media, but it is also coloring my judgment of a new Star Trek show. For me, I wonder if the question I'm asking, to pivot off of yours, is, am I tired of Alex Kurtzman or am I tired of Star Trek Blue Sky? Because the discourse around every new Star Trek project is just maddeningly exhausting. And this year has been exhaustion after exhaustion after exhaustion. I mean, the Section 31 discourse was pretty exhausting. Section 31 was terrible. It deserved all of the criticism that it received. Like, just, not going to sugarcoat that in any way, shape, or form. But it was still exhausting to talk so much about how bad it was. And I hope folks have noticed in December that beyond January just didn't really talk about it on this show, because like, what more was there to talk about other than it wasn't very good? But then we hit Strange New Worlds, and I found the discourse around that absolutely exhausting. All of the criticism that the episodes were receiving, and wasn't just not that bad, it was pretty good. So like, I find myself really worn down by the way in which discussion about Star Trek is paralleling the way we discuss online literally everything in our lives at the moment. That there's one way or there's the other way, and you have to line up completely with one way or completely with the other way, and we have to pick our camps, and we have to be in those camps, and no way can we have contrary opinions to the particular people who are in that camp. And that's true for people who live on both sides of the political spectrum. And like, whether it's politics or whether it's Star Trek, it all falls down into the same thing, that not only is it about people having strong opinions about everything, but also about those opinions being objectively true under all circumstances. And how dare you ever have any opinion that runs counter to that? I mean, how dare you have an opinion that 4.5 Vulcans is funny, right? Like on Star Trek Blue Sky, the discourse around that episode is so weirdly toxic, and it might have, it's not my favorite episode of Star Trek that was ever made, but I don't see in it the things that a lot of people criticize it for. And I sense that some of the same things are happening to Starfleet Academy. It's not the same people every time, the sort of the coalitions shift in terms of who feels what way and who's making the discourse exhausting today. But I'm increasingly convinced that, and this is such a weird thing to say as somebody who's going to publish this episode for lots of other people to listen to and wants other people to listen to it and engage with his opinion, that I realize how trite the words that come out of my mouth are about to seem. But I'm starting to not see the point of this big discussion zone that we have around Star Trek, because nothing about the conversation feels productive. I guess at least here in the podcast, I'm talking to you, we're having a very nice conversation, and other people can choose to listen to it, but I don't have to engage with their reaction, right? Because they're on a treadmill or on their way to work, or I'm not in the room. Unless they want to seek me out and send me an email to say how much they hate your and my opinion about something, it's a one-way conversation. So maybe that's what I like about it more than social media. And that sounds really terrible and egotistical, but hey, I'm leaving it in, and that's the way it's going to be.
Well, I'm outraged by that approach, Alex. I just want to tell you. Your point makes me think back as to, okay, what I was talking about earlier in the show is am I actually really worried about Starfleet Academy, or have I got PTSD from the crazy criticism of the previous shows? And I'm already, even before this thing is aired, worried about how it's going to be received and worried about how it's going to be treated.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually what's at the core of what my concern was. So yeah, no, I think you're right. And that is tiring. It is tiring, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And that's also not to say that like your original question, is it time for Star Trek to say thanks very much to Alex Kurtzman, thank you for your service, and we're moving on to fresh creative talent? Like, I do think that's a worthwhile question asking, because Alex Kurtzman, in a very short period of time has added some 200-ish episodes to the Star Trek franchise. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, it's a small proportion of the overall 900 episodes, some episodes that there are in the franchise, but that's a decent chunk to have amassed in, what amounts to only 8 years worth of time. And like, I mean, everybody, even the greatest creative mind, has only got so many stories in them before they start to run out of their best material. I mean, you look at any Star Trek creative who's been at Star Trek for a while, they have a bunch of really great ideas, and then they run out of great ideas, and the stuff that comes after is not as amazing. And like, is Alex Kurtzman at that point? I don't know. We don't know, because we haven't seen Starfleet Academy, right? Maybe we will watch it and go, yeah, this feels pretty played out. Or maybe we'll watch it and go, this is the best thing ever. This guy's got, he's putting people around him who have a bunch of good ideas and like, is good at identifying talent who make good shows. And so this is a great show and it's going to continue. I mean, that's definitely a valid question to sort of think about, like 8 years into the Kurtzman era. Does the Kurtzman era still feel fresh and does it feel engaging? And for some people, that answer is not at all, and it never has and it never will. And that's fine. This is not like me saying all of this is not saying I think everybody should like Starfleet Academy, or I think everybody should hate Starfleet Academy. I just wish we all were less exhausting about it. That's really what I'm kind of, sort of rebelling against. And I do think that first question is super valid. But yeah, it's like, and this is the part I can't fully decide either, is I haven't seen any of Starfleet Academy. I am excited about it, but also somewhat exhausted by Star Trek at this moment in time. And is that because I am exhausted by what I am seeing on the screen, or am I exhausted by, I pulled up the news article on TrekCore around for the 4-minute clip, and I made the mistake of scrolling to the bottom, and I caught the first comment, and then I scrolled a bit further, and I scrolled and I was just like, this is so exhausting. My life energy is drained by reading all of these different opinions about it, honestly, positive and negative. And so yeah, it's like I'm tired that the discourse is as bad as it is, and I don't know how to fix that.
Well, if anyone has any ideas, they could drop a comment on this page.
They sure could. Yeah,
TrekCore.com.
How about here's my advice: if you have an
hit
idea
Alex up on Blue Sky if you've got any ideas as to how to fix the discourse.
If you have an idea about what to do about this, grab a paper and pen, write your idea down, fold it up, and put it in a little bottle. Take that bottle to the sea and chuck it in, and I promise your message will eventually reach out. I'm just being silly. Yeah.
Well, it'll have the same impact probably as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, it's just like I do think one of the big issues has been the Elon Musk takeover of Twitter. I mean, for all of the nasty things that you could say about the way Twitter was before Elon Musk, it was a more inclusive's not quite the wrong word, because there are lots of people who'd say it was not an inclusive it was a more representative platform of lots of different kinds of people, many of whom didn't agree with each other, but still managed to coexist in this space largely, because again, not true for everybody, but still largely managed to coexist in a space where there was a bigger conversation about things. The fracturing of social media into, you've still got a little bit of Star Trek Twitter, and you've got Blue Sky, Star Trek Twitter, and there's a bit of stuff on Threads, and like they all have their own kind of cultural dynamics to them, none of which make me feel particularly good. Yeah, none of which are particularly constructive.
Well, there's no point in taking a town hall space and then fracturing it into 5 different echo chambers. Like
right.
That's not constructive in any way, right?
It's not constructive. It doesn't do the community any good. And it just means that I significantly scale, I used to tweet all the time, and I really don't anymore, because I don't get anything out of those conversations. And that sucks, because it was a really great way to interact with people and a really great way to develop new friendships and all of that. But it is what it is. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Starfleet Academy, and I'm trying as much as possible to sort of separate out my just utter sheer bone deep exhaustion at how terrible the conversation about all modern Star Trek is.
Will you be reviewing it for TrekCore?
I will not, because I'm doing Strange New Worlds, and 10 a year is good enough for me in terms of doing episodes.
Right.
But it will be reviewed on TrekCore.
Right. So someone else will have the joy of having to listen to the responses to their thoughts on that front.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Someone who doesn't care what anybody thinks about anything, so he's the perfect person to be reviewing Starfleet Academy.
Excellent.
Do you have an opinion, theory, or wish about Star Trek that you'd like to share? Email them to me at weeklytrek@trekcore.com, and I might feature your thoughts in a future episode. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Weekly Trek. Thank you so much to my guest, Jamie McGregor, for joining me today. Jamie, how can people contact you? Should you wish them to contact you?
Well,
I'll be honest, to continue the conversation.
I feel exactly the same. I have an account on some of these things, and I don't really use it. Instagram, Jamie_MCG, just photos, images, and less text and argument and angst. There you go. Follow me on Instagram.
And in addition to a literal message in a bottle, you can find this show on X at WeeklyTrek, and me at Alexander T. Perry on X, and at Alex T. Perry on Blue Sky and everywhere else. And if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. And for all your Star Trek news needs, in addition to our extensive media archives of all things Star Trek, I hope you will keep your senses locked to TrekCore.com. Well, thank you, Jamie. Thank you to all of my listeners. And until next week, live long and prosper. Weekly Trek is a production of TrekCore.com and owned by Trapezoid Media, LLC.